Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a moon reading. We're going to be talking about the new moon in Sagittarius this week. And I just got it's like the colds and the flus that are going around this year are pretty tough. I just got over, well, I'm still kind of getting over the chest cold part of it. As I say that, the coughing wants to happen. It's funny. But I lost my voice for almost 2 weeks. It was kind of a mess, and had some really good friends help me out with cures and stuff. So I'm feeling better. And if you guys have been watching me for a while, you know that I lose my voice at around this time of year every year. Like it's like clockwork. It's the drier air that messes with my vocal cords. So anyways, I'm doing better. I hope you guys are all doing well and that you are taking good care of yourselves in this really funky energy. The cosmos and just the people and like everything is real. Like there's this buildup that's happening and it's really fiery as we go into Sagittarius season. And we're going to talk about that when we look at the chart for the Sagittarius new moon. Before we get into anything, I just want to remind you guys, this is the last opportunity to get your new year readings done. The 6-month tarot and astrology readings are still available. I have openings on my calendar until December 17th. After that, I'm going to close my calendar for a few weeks and probably a little bit of time in January too. I'm not sure of specifics time in January, but definitely the last couple weeks of this year, just to give myself an energetic break. Like we all need that time off. We all need that time off from our jobs. We all need that time off from social media. Like I'm even going to make a pact with myself that, I do some social media detoxing. If that means it's a couple of days or it's a week, like I'm just going to go with how I feel and what my soul feels. But now is kind of the time to do that because there's a lot of energy swirling around right now. And it's not very grounding. And it can it's going to affect everybody in different ways. But people are kind of losing their shit. Like there's a lot of people that are losing their minds right now. And a lot of it is because they have built up so many expectations of things to look a certain way in their life. And, it's really hard sometimes for people to accept things happening, like not everything is always going to, flow perfectly. And there's always going to be that lesson that we're supposed to be learning. I've been learning a lot about, having that loving relationship with people, but still being detached enough to not let myself get fully enmeshed in whatever it is that's going on in their lives. And that's one of the lessons that I'm really learning right now, because I am finding that I need as much peace as I possibly can. And, when you go through physical ailments in your life, there's a sort of ego battle. It's not about killing the ego. We can talk about that all day long, about why we're not here to kill the ego. The ego is about who we are. It's our I. The ego protects us from things in life that can be very harmful, from danger. The ego is here so that we can live, so that we know what survival mode is supposed to feel like, except, I've talked about this before with you guys, but a lot of times, because the world has made us fear so much, because fear is a way to control people easily. Now we're all living in survival mode constantly, through the pandemic and everything. So there's this awareness that's kind of floating around now about how much we have all kind of been placed in this restrictive fear mode box, if you will. So yeah, I've been really working with myself and through my own fears of you know, I used to be a horrible people pleaser. Like even when I started doing this channel and, you know, I mean, it was like every single time somebody had a negative comment about what I was doing on this channel, I would immediately have to defend myself in some way. And there comes a time in your life when you don't have the energy to do that anymore. There comes a time in your life where you don't have the energy to constantly be like, you know, I want people to like me. I just want people to like me. You know, I used to play the devil's advocate all the time. I still do sometimes because I like to look at everybody's perspective. My perspective is not always correct. And I know that for a fact because I have, you know, been wounded and traumatized so much in my own life that I know that my perspective is not always laser focused, you know? So I choose to look at other people's perspectives as well. And in doing that, we can really open up so much more to ourselves. And right now it's just super hard for people to focus on the fact that, that, that life isn't always a battle. Life isn't always a war. We think that it is because it feels like there's constantly a war going on in the outside world. And, you know, here we are just trying to do the best that we can. We feel like there's always a battle and a war and there's over survival and all of that in our lives. So as we get into the holiday season, deeper into the holiday season, and we get even darker at night, and, you know, I know that with this, the clocks changing and all of that, it's easier to get more rest during this time. You know, I mean, take cues from your body of not forcing yourself to stay awake until 11 o'clock or midnight or whatever to get all of these things done. If you're exhausted at 6:30, if you're exhausted at 7:30, then maybe it's time for you to take a hint from your body and just allow yourself to rest. There's so much when it comes to our own cyclical clocks that we don't listen to, which is another thing that I've learned in the last couple of years. But the Sagittarius new moon is going to be an interesting one. On the surface, it looks like it's going to be a grand old time to be able to manifest stuff. So let's take a look really quick. And, you know, it could be, you could do your rituals and your manifestation prayers and, you know, do all of your things. If we are looking here at the chart, it's going to be a Taurus rising chart that we're looking at. The Sagittarius moon is going to be in the 7th house of this chart. And with this Taurus rising chart, we have this Uranus, you know, North Node conjunction still happening. So things aren't going to be settling down anytime soon. And if you have been going through times of poor self-esteem or not really feeling good about where life is leading you, or like you're confused about certain aspects that are happening in your life, you're not alone. I had a couple of days this last, you know, with the Mars Neptune square that we've had this week. Looking at the, you know, Mars is down here. This is the 23rd, by the way. The Sagittarius new moon is happening on Wednesday, November 23rd, the day before Thanksgiving. For those of you that celebrate Thanksgiving. And it's happening at 3:56 p.m. Mountain Time, which means it's going to be 5:56 p.m. Eastern and 2:56 p.m. Pacific. But the Sagittarius moon is going to be happening. We can see that in the 7th house. And so, you know, relationships are really going to be something that is in focus for this. We have also Venus and Mercury here conjunct at about a degree, but Venus and Mercury have been in a beneficial reception with this conjunction for a couple of days leading up to this. As I'm doing this video on Sunday and the new moon is happening on Wednesday, you know, we're feeling this Mars square Neptune for a couple of days this last weekend. You know, yesterday and today have been a little bit aggro. Like there's a lot of aggressive natures that are happening right now. And A lot of times with Mars square Neptune, you don't have a lot of physical energy to back up that anger, that natural anger that you're feeling inside. And so it becomes completely exhausting in our pursuit of whatever it is that we're angry about and we want to find justice in. The Sagittarius moon is ruled by Jupiter, and we have Mercury and Venus also here in Sagittarius. So there's a lot of Jupiterian energy here. So there's a lot of manifestation possibilities that are available, especially because we have Mercury and Venus here in good reception with each other. However, Mercury is what we consider out of bounds during this new moon and during this chart. And Mercury is going to be out of bounds until December 21st. So for the next month, we're going to be feeling this Mercury out of bounds. Now, what out of bounds for any planet? When any planet is out of bounds, it means they are, it's greater than 23 degrees and 27 seconds declination between the sun and the ecliptic, right? So the horizon and where the sun is, there's this 20 that's greater than 23 degrees declination, whether it's north or it's south. Mars is currently out of bounds and has been since, I wrote it down. Oh, wait, I did not write it down. October 22nd, I believe. And because of this retrograde, Mars is going to be out of bounds until May 4th of next year. When a planet is out of bounds, they kind of don't act right. they act up in all of the wrong ways. So with this Mars in retrograde, in Gemini, out of bounds, we've already been seeing the aggressive side. Like we talked about just a couple minutes ago, like the aggression that's in the air is very palpable. A lot of people are very angry about things, and that's not new to us. A lot of people have been very angry about things for a very long time. So this is not a new feeling for us, but it continues to grow and grow and grow and grow. I've really learned how to point my aggression that I have, or my anger that I have, or, anything that I feel like is unfair. I've really tried to point that in more healthier directions in my life, because I used to blame the people. Like I used to direct it at the people that I loved the most and who loved me the most. And lashing out, especially when somebody doesn't understand how to ground themselves and release the anger and process the anger, lashing out is like the best defense for people that don't understand that kind of aggression. So empathy, compassion, maybe not even just the empathy side, but even more compassion for people that are kind of not able to ground themselves. A lot of people just don't want to hear anything these days. And I made the mistake. It wasn't a mistake. I'm not going to call it a mistake, but even like speaking the things that I felt like I needed to say, they were on my heart, and the things that I needed to say, and, had to really detach from the outcome of what that was going to look like. And that's not an easy thing to get to. A lot of times we want the outcome to be a positive outcome for ourselves, and that's not necessarily always the way that it's going to look. So, speaking your truth is often going to show you the path. Like I've had to learn that part of taking accountability of my life is saying words that I previously would not have said. That is a huge thing for me. A lot of times I would swallow my words. A lot of times I would swallow the feelings that I had about a situation. A lot of times because I didn't want either to lose a friendship. I didn't want somebody to get mad at me. I didn't want to be considered the bad guy in the situation. Whatever it is that I was programmed to believe that would happen if I spoke my truth in some way. So, there's a certain level of discernment that we have to have when we're in those moments where we feel like we have those things on our hearts to say, but we also have to be very detached from the outcome. It can't be like, you can't go into something thinking that you're going to save the day. Like nobody is going to be a savior to anybody. the person who's going to save themselves is that person to them. It's no one outside of you can ever save you. And if you have that kind of savior complex, and there are times in my life that I have, like, I'll admit it. There are times that I really wanted to save people from themselves because I could see the vision of the outcome happening and I didn't want them to be hurt. Not my choice, not my journey, not my path. And as we have Mercury out of bounds for the next month, that is something to remember, because Mercury is going to be wild while it's in Sagittarius and then moving into Capricorn. Mercury is going to be dramatic and outspoken, and just all of the ways that, if we think about who Mercury is, he's the messenger. Being extremely influenced by Mercury in my chart. Thank you very much. I'm also very influenced by Jupiter in my chart as well, but being extremely influenced by Mercury in my chart, being the messenger sometimes fucking sucks. Like, I'm just going to say it. It is not a fun place to be in. And there are days where I'm just like, I don't want to be the messenger anymore. I don't care if people need to know this information or not. But there are reasons why I find out certain things that when I'm not even looking for it, when I'm not even like searching for, what it is or whatever it is that it comes to me, like, I'm just here. I'm just living my life and trying to do it the best way that I can. And then I find out stuff, and then it's like that heaviness. Some of you might know what I'm talking about. Like, and I don't presume to know everything, but Mercury out of bounds does presume to know everything. And Mercury out of bounds, especially a Jupiter ruled Mercury out of bounds, as he goes into Capricorn, a more Saturnian Mercury is going to be a little less. And we'll talk about that as we get to the full moon in Gemini that's going to be happening in a couple weeks as well. And that's going to be a really interesting one with this out of bounds Mars. But Mercury is that guy that he's the only one of the Greek gods that Hermes, right? If you've never heard the story, one of my favorite mythological stories, Greek mythologies, is the story of Persephone and Hades and Hermes. And when, Persephone goes down into the underworld and was stolen by Hades, and he kind of coaxes her with the pomegranate seeds. And then Demetra, her mother, on the surface is the one that creates all of the season. So right now, because we're going into the winter and the dark months, this is the time that Persephone is down in the underworld with Hades, eating her pomegranates. The funny thing is Persephone and Hades actually have a really great relationship. Demeter just didn't want to give up her daughter, period. There's a little selfish quality of that in all of us parents. We don't want to let our children go. But as our children get older, we have to use that detachment style as well with our children. So, Hermes actually is the messenger that was allowed to go into the underworld. Any other god that went into the underworld had to stay there. But Hermes is able to go back and forth between the earth and the upper world and the underworld and give the messages to Demeter, give the messages to Apollo, give the messages to Hades and Persephone and like all of these things. And because he's so mutable in that way, and because he can go back and forth and in and out and up and down, there's a quality about him that can be a little out of bounds sometimes. So you can be the drama master, you can be the drama queen, king, whatever you want to call it during this time while Mercury is in out of bounds, or you can allow yourself to find that grounding every day. Now, remember, I even said that Mars is out of bounds as well until May of next year. And that is, having those two planets kind of out wild in themselves right now. It's sort of it's a time that can get really confusing and fuzzy and potentially harmful to people if they're not paying attention and watching out. Now, going back to this new moon, can we manifest? Of course. You can actually manifest without a new moon. You can manifest without a full moon. You can release, you can let go, you can shift, you can pivot, you can change, you can do whatever you want. This new moon is going to bring a lot of that fire and passion inside of us that we haven't felt. Like, it's been very dark lately. That eclipse season. Wow. Like, I don't know about you guys. And the very interesting thing is I feel like the eclipse season, which actually is, today, November 20th, is the last day the eclipse energies are at their strongest. Doesn't mean that the eclipse fuckery is going to stop, because you still may have some things that you need to learn from that. But there are a lot of people that have learned their eclipse lessons after the eclipse happened. And that's because the energy doesn't stop. It doesn't, just because we have the eclipse on whatever date doesn't mean that it's just going to be done and over with. Right. So, now is that opportunity to really have, Jupiter wants you to have that optimism, and Jupiter wants you to have that fire, and Jupiter wants you, it's all about like justice and leading with your head and your heart, and not just, thinking logically, or not just thinking with your emotions. Being able to do both of them at the same time, and being able to do that in a detached way in this economy, especially in this spiritual economy, is not always the easiest trip to take. So I wish you all well for this Sagittarius new moon. I'm not going to tell you what the best thing for you to focus on for this new moon. What I would like for you to do is to think on it, pray on it, meditate on it. Whoever is the source of energy, whoever it is that you connect with, if you journey, like whatever it is that you do, I want you to find out what this new moon wants for you personally, and see how that works out for you. Because I think that it's going to be a really personal journey for us in more ways than one. Let's look at our surrender card. Let me stop sharing that here. So we're going to look at the power of surrender. It's a little glary because I'm using natural light today. It's just better. I like natural light. I like the sun. So, okay. Power of surrender. Oh, yes. Surrender resentments. Holding on to resentments only poisons you. Try to forgive others for their shortcomings and keep moving forward towards positive situations in your life. I don't know if you can really read that. It's a little fuzzy, but okay. Let's leave this out so we can look at it as we go through. I think there's so much stuff happening with relationships, and not necessarily just romantic relationships. Like, it feels like, wow, these cards are just like butter in my hands today. We have platonic relationships in our lives. We have those relationships with people who have been friends for a very long time. There's a desire to keep relationships in our lives forever, certain people in our lives forever. Sometimes we don't understand why certain people come into our lives, and then they're gone just as fast as they came in. But this new moon is really going to be a lot about planting seeds for those relationships, because those relationships that you have in the future are going to start with the relationship that you have with yourself. And you all know that I preach about this blah stuff all the time. Yes, Betsy, having a relationship with yourself is the best one to have. I get it. But it's true. Like, you're always going to hear me say that, because if there's anybody out there that is leading you outside of yourself in order to find yourself, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So I love this reading so far. I have a feeling that we're going to get a twist, but so far I love this reading. So the first one that came up with was Temperance. Ruled by Jupiter, welcome Sagittarius to your reading with the new moon. And then we have the Seven of Pentacles. And then we have the Knight of Cups, the Ace of Cups, and the Eight of Cups. I love this reading. This is about standing firm on your own and giving the love and support back to yourself, especially if you have to walk away from things that you are already emotionally attached to. And you have to either allow yourself to detach from it, or you can open yourself up to being non-attached to it. But, you know, I have to remind people that the things that we're emotionally attached to in life, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're leaving them forever, that we're leaving them, you know. Sometimes we have relationships in our lives that you need a break from. You need a few beats away from. You need to have some time away. You need to be able to connect back with yourself. And I feel like this reading in a really big way, I thought this was the Seven of Pentacles at first. It's the Nine of Pentacles. That's pretty funny that I said Seven of Pentacles, but still true, still true. It can still happen, manifesting those things, planting those seeds. But this is really about, this new moon is about reminding you of who you are. And in reminding yourself of who you are, yes, that's going to give you the strength and the foresight to push forward on your journey and to allow yourself to pivot if needed. But it's also finding out who you are and coming back to yourself is giving yourself that love that you want from other people so badly, so desperately, that attention that you want from other people. It's time to give that attention and that love to yourself in more ways than one. So, and you know, I even put this up on Twitter. I've had people ask me about my Twitter handles so often, so I'll put that in the description box as well. But on Twitter, I had written that, you know, I've had many exceptional teachers in my journey, and I've read thousands of books that could confirm the knowledge that I had already. But at the end of the day, what it always came down to was me. And it didn't matter the amount of teachers that I had or the amount of books that I had. The knowledge that was already engraved in my soul was what I needed to know for my path and what I needed to know for my journey. I can't tell you how I know certain things without somebody telling me those things, or without me reading it somewhere, or without me seeing it on, you know, television or whatever. Like, I can't explain that certain aspect of me, how I know what I know to be true. I can't explain that because it's a very personal thing for me. It's me being my own teacher always placed me right back where I needed to be on my journey every single time. It was when I began to trust what other people were saying more than what I was trusting within myself. It was when I began regurgitating other people's words without first letting myself process and embody those words first. And because I'm that kind of person where my integrity is extremely important to me, I'm not going to approach anyone or say anything to anyone or be a mentor to anyone or anything like that unless I am firmly grounded within who I know to be true inside of me first and foremost. And that is a huge lesson that a lot of people seem to forget. You know, that it must be that other people just know things more than I do. Not necessarily. You know way more than you think you do. You just have to be open to receive it from yourself as well. You have to, with the Knight of Cups, You have to be open to receive that love from yourself. And the more you trust and love yourself, the less you're out there searching for knowledge from other people, because you're learning to trust the knowledge that you feel within you. That's a big deal, you know. Let's clarify and see what temperance is. The only major arcana that we have in this reading so far. I knew that there was going to be a twist in this reading. It seemed way too good to be true so far. Okay. So let's talk about the top row first, because that's what we've got clarified. So we have the 5 of Cups on the Temperance card. Sometimes when we are balanced within our own emotions and our heart and our own mind, I don't necessarily like to use the word emotional maturity, because I think that a lot of people use that for an ableism tactic. Like, not everybody is going to communicate in the same way. That doesn't mean that they don't have emotional maturity. I'm just going to put that out there. 5 of Cups, though, there's this grief that if we are not balanced within our own hearts and our own minds, and we are not thinking, you know, in that temperate kind of way, the grief can be so overwhelming that it's hard to come out of it. It's hard to see the other side of it. But reminding us as we have to grieve. It's a natural human thing for us to grieve. And we're not just grieving like physical death with people. Yes, we grieve that too, but there are death and transformations that are happening in our lives every single day. There could be the death of a friendship. There could be the death of an older version of yourself that you have to honor. Man, I went through a lot of that in the last year. There's always that. It could be a death of a job. There could be a death, whatever it is, a death of your path in one instance. But every single time there is a transition like that or a death like that in our lives, there's an aspect of our journey that opens up to us, and we have to be willing to see that. And that's what these 2 of Cups represent. If you're so focused on what you're losing right now, or what is hurting you and what's bringing you pain, and you're not able to clearly see what it is that you still have going for you, then really spending time with yourself and really allowing yourself to be your greatest teacher in this moment is going to be very advantageous for you in big, big ways. The Knight of Wands on the 9 of Pentacles. So many of us are like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to survive on my own. I don't know how I'm going to survive without this person. I don't know how I'm going to survive without this job. What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? We talked about what ifs a little bit in the last reading that I did for you guys, but in a lot of ways, when we have what ifs in our life, it's almost as if we're building those journeys and those paths for ourselves by thinking up like, what if things happen this way? And if that's not something that you want to see in your future, then it's time for you to start looking at the pathway in a different kind of way. And this out of bounds experience that we're all in can get really, really confusing. So coming back to yourself again, the wishy-washy going back and forth between yourself and somebody else and yourself and somebody else and yourself and somebody else, you can lose yourself in that stuff. It can drive you insane. It can make you go crazy. So you really have to listen to what your body is telling you. And it's not even what your mind, because people can manipulate the mind. Ask me how I know people can manipulate the mind. It happens every day. Turning on the TV, your mind is getting manipulated in some way. So really getting back to yourself, and the 2 of Swords with the Knight of Cups. Doesn't matter. That 2 of Swords has apathy, a lot of apathy written on it. That 2 of Swords has a lot of, you may have some decisions that you need to make, but you're sort of ignoring them. And the thing is what you're blocking as you're ignoring those decisions. And a lot of this is because you don't have all of the information that you think that you're supposed to have to make this decision. Usually not true. Usually you do have all the information. You just want to have different information. Like, let's be honest and real with ourselves. Okay. Just because you don't have the information you think that you're supposed to have, there's this blockage of whatever wants to come in. This Knight of Cups, whether it's the love from yourself, whether it's the love from somebody else, the Knight of Cups is a messenger bringing in some kind of loving information for you. And he can't do that if you are not allowing yourself to be vulnerable to see everything and making informed decisions for yourself. And if you don't have all the information and you feel like you need more, then go find it. Either find it within yourself or find it somewhere else. You see? Let's clarify this Ace of Cups and this Eight of Cups. Okay. So there's, oh, look at that. The lovers are at the bottom of the deck. How cute. Okay. I don't often see the lovers as actual, as like a love relationship. It could very well be true that this new moon could be bringing you a new relationship into your life. But I see the lovers as connecting our own energies within us and creating a wholeness within. And, you know, feeling that wholeness too. It's not just about creating the wholeness. It's about actually being able to feel it, being able to articulate it, and being able to embody this full wholeness of having both masculine and feminine energies within ourselves that are balanced. The King of Cups on the Ace of Cups. I feel like the masculine energies, there's a softening that's happening with them. There's a vulnerability that's being opened to them. And when I say masculine energies, I don't just necessarily mean men, period. The masculine energies within all of us need that self-love right now, need that care. These are the energies within us that make us feel like we need to go hard. The masculine energies are the ones where we feel like we need to hustle. The masculine energies within us are the ones where we feel like we have to be in control and we have to be in charge of things and we have to make sure that everything is being taken care of. And if I don't do that, then I'm a failure kind of thing, right? So really nurturing that part of you during this holiday season as we get deeper into it, and allowing yourself to say, I'm going to do as much as I can, and then I'm going to stop. I'm not going to push myself any further this year. Making a pact with yourself. Don't set those high expectations of New Year resolutions for yourself in November and December of the year before. Like, stop. Don't try and get the most presents for all the people when you don't have the most money. Don't try, really allowing yourself to say, like, I'm taking the last 2 weeks of December off. I was going to take the whole month off, but then I realized that I have to take some of January off too. And I was like, okay, let's be realistic, Betsy. Let's not kill ourselves completely. But I was going to take, both of those months off. And then I decided that I would keep the first 2 weeks open. Now, if that becomes too overwhelming, then I will close off the last part of that, even that, who knows? I don't even know how it's going to work. But instead of forcing and having expectations of the way that that's going to look, I'm just going to let it happen the way that it's supposed to happen. I mean, especially if I get sick again, if I get another cold or the flu or something like that, because I hear they're kind of nasty this year. And I just got through one of them. But if that happens again, I won't be able to finish that, whatever. So just letting yourself work with the energy instead of constantly fighting against it, that's really going to help you learn how to heal your survival mode. And the survival mode is really deeply embedded in the masculine energies that we hold within ourselves. And then we have the 10 of Cups with the 8 of Cups. Okay. And I love this combination because I feel like what these cards are saying is Stop having expectations of what you think your ultimate happiness is supposed to look like. That 10 of Cups is a completion. So, and there's no destination when it comes to happiness. There's no destination in our lives anyways. This is a constant journey that we're always going to be on, changing and pivoting and flowing and all of that. So there's a lot of little destinations along the way. And allowing yourself to walk away from the expectations of what this 10 of Cups is supposed to look like will actually bring you the 10 of Cups. Believe it or not. It's, like, I wish that, and that's not an easy thing to do, but constantly redirecting yourself every time you find yourself having another expectation for you to show up in some kind of way, to make other people happy. One of these surrender cards that I pulled on the Love and Science Twitter page last week was surrender to people pleasing. And that really was a big sign for a lot of people to kind of take a step back and to no longer allow themselves to be sucked into that people pleasing mode. And the holidays, oh my God, I remember how I used to people please during the holidays, all this, like in my old life. I just always wanted to make everybody happy constantly all the time. And that a lot of that stemmed from the way that my mom would act and would be during the holidays as well. And like all of the stress that would come from it. And it's like, I want to enjoy myself, and I want to enjoy myself with my family. Jack is going to be here for Christmas. I can't wait for that. He's going to be here for a whole week, over a week. I think he's going to be here for 8 days. Before he has to get back to, his Christmas with his dad too. So, I'm not going to let myself stress about things that don't need to be stressed about, and that's something that did not come easy to me. And a lot of that had to do with the ego battles of finding peace in my life. When you are hell-bent on finding peace in your life, you're going to do everything that you possibly can in order to do that. And one of those things that I had to do was heal my people-pleasing tendencies. And that really worked for me. So not placing expectations on yourself this holiday season, not creating undue stress and undue tension. Remember that we have a really wacky kind of cosmic jumble happening around us right now. So paying attention to your own emotional responses are going to be huge, and making sure that you're grounded every day is going to be even bigger. So I wish you guys the best with that. I've had several comments on the last couple of videos, and man, I love you guys so incredibly much. And this goes along with the people pleasing tendencies, but I've had several comments about how much you guys miss me doing the monthly readings for the signs. And if I'm being really honest, I miss doing those monthly readings with the signs as well. I just don't have the energy to do it right now, you guys. It takes a lot out of me. Even if I'm not researching the astrology, which is like impossible for me to do, like if I'm going to do a tarot reading, I'm going to research the astrology with that tarot reading. But if even if I'm not doing that and I'm just doing like 12 card readings every month, you guys just don't know the kind of energy that takes for a person to do. And I just don't have that. I don't know if I'm ever going to have it back. Because this doesn't get better. The illness that I have, it evolves. And I don't really want to say that it doesn't get better, because in some cases there have been ups and downs and lulls. And, but when your body is constantly fighting a cancer at the core of your form, like it's literally in my bones, my bone marrow, it's exhausting. It's very, very exhausting. And I have to spend my days and I know that I don't have to explain this stuff to you guys, but I just want you to understand that the sentiment is real. Like, I want to cry right now so much, but I would love to be able to do that. And I hope that someday that I can offer those readings back to you guys, but just understand that I'm not doing them because I don't want to, because I would love to be able to do them again. I'm doing it because it's better for my life, and I'll be here longer. Like if I'm not forcing myself to use energy that my body needs to heal, that means that I'm going to be here longer. So if you guys can be okay with having readings from me every 2 weeks instead of wishing and hoping constantly that I'm going to be doing the, monthly readings again, that would be really great, because right now that's all I can offer. So, yeah. And I'm glad, like, it's a blessing to me that I can still get on camera and do these readings for you guys. Like, this is a part of who I am. And I've built so many amazing relationships through this channel. And, I'm just blessed in every single way. So thank you for still being a part of my journey. For those of you who are still with me and hanging out with me every 2 weeks. And I really appreciate the sentiments. Like when you guys leave me messages on these videos, I just eat them up. So I love you all. And I hope you have a wonderful Sagittarius moon. And remember to sit with yourself and ask yourself what it is that you need from this Sagittarius new moon and manifest from there. I love you. Take care of yourselves. Bye.